everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this series of videos we'll be breaking down the Rift meta one node at a time. And this time around, this video is dedicated to splitting Image, a strong light element natural diamond Fuqua that hit the scene early this year and have solidified her place as an impenetrable defender in both Rifts and prize fights. Her ridiculous signature ability that grants free regeneration in conjunction with the high tier light catalyst Last Words allows splitting Image to be virtually unkillable if the player cannot deal damage faster than she recovers. Worst yet, she gains permanent immunity, preventing any debuffs from crippling her such as Bleed, Curse, Hex, or Doom. This means that no tricks or niche strategies are effective counters to kill splitting Image. If you want to defeat her, you'll have to rely on pure raw damage that hopefully outweighs her defenses. I like to use a tug of war as an analogy when facing against splitting Image because it's a pure battle of stats. If your offense is greater than your defense, you can win, and if not, you will probably lose. So most of the time, you'll face splitting Image with common light defenders such as Dreadlocks, That's All Folks, Assassin's Greed, or even Dreamband. This is not an exhaustive list, as light defenders are quite abundant in the meta. I'm not going over each of them to save time, and common ones like Dreadlocks and That's All Folks probably require their own video to cover. But anyway, you should expect that light defenders will be super tanky and hard to kill, especially with Last Words, a light specific catalyst that is just so good at making it harder and longer to kill your enemies. At the time when this video is made, nobody has so far managed to pull and invest in 3 splitting Images, but that's really only a matter of time, as I've seen someone currently working on that. Yep, you know who you are. If you're watching this and you're thinking, does that mean there really is no way to be splitting Image? Well, yes and no. It really depends on your stat distribution and how much attack percentage and piercing you can pull to get on your fighters. Unfortunately, not all fighters and variants will be suitable, and in the following clips, you can see which variants top players have used to outdamage the impenetrable defense. I must warn you that these players are veterans and are most likely equipped with a set of at least level 12 or even level 15 moves for maximum damage output. Without further ado, let's begin. First up, we have Keith with double Harlequins. Now Harlequin is one of those variants that top players have multiple of due to her high attack stat as a Cerebella and universal support skill that stacks on top of each other. With both of them, you get a 70% cooldown and a 40% damage boost in special moves, which is huge. Cerebella is known for her special moves that deals a huge chunk of damage in one hit, like Battle Butt and Merry Gorilla. You can just see how much burst damage each of these special moves can deal, which you can reuse again and again due to the increased cooldown. Furthermore, Merry Gorilla is considered as a throw and will activate Cerebella's marquee ability, Ringleader, to reduce the opponent's meter so you won't have to worry about getting punished with an unblockable tier 3 blockbuster. Lastly, it's important to note that Keith here also brings an outtake to remove his opponents from the stage as soon as Final Stand from Last Words proc to optimize his time and score. This is possibly the best and cheapest strategy to use, as Harlequin is available as a gold tier prize fight reward. Next, we have HBJ with Criminal Mind along with Harlequin and Surgeon General support. Criminal Mind has the exact same attack stat as Harlequin, and as a dark element, she gains additional element bonus damage to make up for the lack of a second Harlequin. The strategy is exactly the same as before, reusing BattleButt and Merry Gorilla to constantly inflict massive burst damage that will eventually wear the opponent down. However, I wanted to bring this particular clip up because HBJ uses outtakes in a very smart way to give distance between themselves and the opponent, so that they can use Merry Gorilla that will always connect. This is very important against characters with small hitboxes, as it can be difficult to properly use Merry Gorilla in succession without failing a couple of times due to issues with distance, which could cost you. I personally think this is a brilliant showcase on how to use Cerebella in an optimal and elegant way. Alright, next is Lemon Jelly with Treshik and Neuromancer along with Sketchy support. As some of you know, Trustchick is single-handedly the best offensive Valentine in the game right now, and with triple counter venoms, she can do some serious burst damage in a single combo with hardly any effort. Her high burst damage is also owed to both Deathmark and Armor Break that she can inflict from her signature ability, but with splitting gaining permanent immunity when her health is lower, Trustchick will need some setup and outtakes with sketchy support to prevent immunity via curse. Once splitting is cursed, Trustchick can go in, do her thing, inflict deadly debuffs, and go for the kill. Neuromancer here serves as a secondary fighter with access to pinion dashes that can deal quite a significant amount of damage and easy access to an unblockable tier 3 blockbuster for a blockbuster finish. But in this particular clip, the true star is ultimately Trustchick. For the fourth fighter, we have Somersault piloted by Randomizer. Somersault, as we know, is a very powerful offensive fighter due to her buff removal ability, along with Parasol's marketability critical mass that allows Somersault to deal a huge chunk of burst damage through Silent Scope. She is especially effective against Last Words and Final Stands, as she can easily remove them through her tears. However, Somersault is not easy to pilot as you need to constantly maintain tears in the stage to boost your damage, which requires some skill. Somersault is also very risky to use due to her light element, granting splitting image, stacks of precision, and blockbuster meter every 3 seconds from her secondary signature ability. Be sure that your intercepting skills are on point, cause if not, you might just get an unblockable blockbuster straight to your face. The next clip is one of my favorites and it uses Hack and Slash by Angel Luzo. The most notable thing about Hack and Slash is that her ability activates on block, allowing you to gain stacks of precision while also inflicting debuffs, notably Armor Break, to splitting image without triggering her permanent immunity. Now that Armor Break is inflicted, Hack and Slash can simply use the 3 special moves Fiber Upper, El Gato, and Cat Slide to inflict massive amounts of damage to her. Furthermore, since these are precision hits, you can also use this against both Dreadlocks and That's All Folks without worrying about the damage reflect or the evasion. The only downside is that it has no way to answer against Last Words, although equipping an outtake could alleviate this. While Hack and Slash has a high attack stat, she will definitely need further investment in both attack and piercing if you would like to replicate the amount of damage that Angel has shown here. Y'all are in for a treat. This next fighter is the ultimate antithesis to Splitting Image, Shadow Puppet by Dreri. I have to warn you that this fighter was built to kill Splitting Image and her fellow light element defenders. Its stat distribution is full of attack, piercing, and a maximum amount of elemental bonus to further maximize damage. With a sky high attack stat, Shadow Puppet can destroy light teams easily with this setup. Sketchy combined with Shadow Puppet's ability to reset debuffs can cause a near infinite curse to the opponent by utilizing an outtake. Furthermore, Loves of Love is a powerhouse unblockable special move that allows Shadow Puppet to start her combos without having to wait for an opening and can be used in near proximity or afar. Finally, Inevitable Snuggle is a command grab that recovers 50% of the damage dealt, allowing Shadow Puppet to eliminate Dreadlocks without having to worry about the damage reflect. All in all, this is a one-of-a-kind clip that may be hard to imitate realistically, but it is sure damn satisfying to watch. Alright, so the next fighter is Jawbreaker operated by Kulchepsky. Jawbreaker, with her naturally high attack stat and signature ability that grants her bonus damage for every buff she has, is the definition of pure raw damage. The strategy is simple. Simply transmute a bunch of times to get multiple buffs, and then proceed to overwhelm Splitting and her fellow defenders by sheer brute force. Surgeon General is a must-have support here that grants Jawbreaker survivability while also increasing her damage through the 2 buffs she provides. Unfortunately, due to Jawbreaker getting cursed early on in this clip, we weren't able to showcase her full potential, but nonetheless, 2 buffs were enough in this case to take down the impenetrable defense. Following on the previous clip, here's a budget version using Doublicious instead by Keith. The strategy is fairly standard. You first outtake Splitting to deal with her last, and kill off her fellow light teammates with the Chaos Marquee ability to inflict loads of debuffs. Harley Quinn is there as a support to increase Doublicious damage, while Sujan serves to increase her survivability. As usual, Keith here uses a rather risky strategy of relying on Bandwagon to inflict Hex on Dreadlocks. Once they're down, Doublicious should have less health than Splitting from blocking chip damage or Dreadlock's reflect damage, so Chaos can still inflict a few debuffs to wear her down a bit. Honestly, this clip just goes to show how powerful Double and Cerebella are in general, due to her naturally high attack stat. The extra bonus damage from Harley Quinn and Double's element bonus are simply icing on the cake. If you're still having trouble against Splitting, then I highly recommend to upgrade your moves for both Double and Cerebella. You might like the results. To end on this double streak, we finally have Heart of Darkness by Kulchevsky. Now, I'm going to be honest, Jawbreaker still remains the superior option as she hits hard with very little setup. But if you're like me and got her twin sister Heart of Darkness instead, you might want to stay around for this clip. The strategy is quite hilarious and revolves around Heart of Darkness' signature ability to steal the opponent's signature ability. What we're after here is Splitting Image's second signature ability to gain position and blockbuster meter when facing any light element. Passively gaining blockbuster meter is very powerful for Double since it easily charges your unblockable blockbuster Megalith Array, which simultaneously works as a form of meter control. On the other hand, Precision allows Double to inflict critical hits against common light defenders such as That's All Folks and Dreadlocks without triggering their signature ability while activating Double's Chaos Marquee ability to inflict tons of debuffs. And of course, to ensure that our damage outscales the opponent's defenses, Harley Quinn as support is always recommended. Alright, now we've reached the end and this officially concludes the second video in the series. Now some of you may ask, why is there such a long gap between the previous video and this one? And to be honest, the main reason is that it requires a lot of editing and recording, which do take literally a handful of hours to make. Now this is not even considering the players who I cannot thank enough for climbing up the Rift ladder and going against high diamond tier players and record their fights for this video. There's a lot of work behind the scenes and I hope you all can appreciate these top players as much as I do. Please do follow their social media accounts and their own YouTube channel, as they often have more videos and tips for Rift that I am unable to cover. I will put their links down in the description below. Also, one last thing, feel free to suggest other topics or content that you would like me to cover in the comments, and hopefully we can make that a reality someday. Well, thanks for watching and hope you all have a great day.